Hey everyone, welcome to The Path of Me. I'm your host, Wendy Hutchinson, and today I have Carey Gatto with us. She is an incredible energy and empowerment coach. She works primarily with women, and I want to welcome her to the show. So, welcome, Carey. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Wendy. I'm so thrilled to be here. Talk
Yeah.
to you.
So I found Carey, on social media. And we do have some things in common. We're both coaches and we both
Mhm.
are healers. And she was talking about something that happened recently, and I thought she had so much courage. It was this program she had created. And I'm going to let you tell the story, Carey, but I was so inspired by your authenticity and
Thank
just your
you.
desire to be in service to others. And I'm going to just let you share that story because it had such an impact on me.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm a coach and I do a lot of my work online and I work with clients all over the country. Um, and I have a signature group coaching program, which is called Goddess Uprising, which is specifically for women who are exploring their feminine divine energy and really leaning into that. And I also run, various master classes and experiences and events for women to, kind of get a taste of what I do, to find me in the first place and just figure out what it is that I'm all about. And I had created a new master class that was just on my heart to create. And it's called Miracle Mama. And basically, it's all about helping women specifically to birth miracles. So it's not necessarily for mothers, it's just for women to become the conduit for magic, for quantum leaps, for all possibilities, or for any desire that they wish to bring into the physical. And I was very excited about it. And I put it together. 4 weeks was the format. So weekly calls for 4 weeks. I'd been talking about it a little bit on social media, putting it out to my list. And when it came to the day before, I didn't have any signups. And it was a fairly low cost class. I was marketing it for $111. So I was thinking that I would have some people who would be willing to invest that.
Sure.
However, no signups. And so what I was sharing on my Facebook page at the time was I had to, sit with myself about that
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
think, okay, so what do I do now? Do
Yeah.
I just cancel the whole thing and throw in the towel? And that would be a natural response because I don't have anyone to teach to.
Right.
But when I sat with it, I was like, no, I really feel that I need to bring this into the world. And maybe it's just for me. Maybe it's just I need to hear this and I need this medicine right now. And that's okay. If
Yeah.
it's just for me, so be it.
Yeah.
And then I decided to do it anyway. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it for me, myself, and I'm going to be there on the call. And I did invite my clients who are in the Goddess Uprising program to join the call for free. But when I did day one, it was just me. And
Yeah.
I went through my whole
I love
uh,
it.
thing and it went great.
Yeah.
And
I
at
was
the
going to
end,
ask, how did you feel after it? Sometimes when we just do something for ourselves and we don't have an agenda and we
yeah.
don't have to play to an audience, there's something really powerful and authentic that comes through because we're doing it for ourselves.
Yeah. And that's exactly how it felt. I felt, liberated because I didn't have any pressure of expectation or, pressure that I might disappoint somebody,
Yeah.
or anything like that. So
Yeah.
it kind of felt very liberating. And knowing that I was just doing it for myself, it felt good. It felt authentic. And after the end of day one, when I reviewed it, watched the replay, I thought, okay, this is really good. Like I want more people to see this. So I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
let's take the money out of the equation. I don't care
Yeah.
about it right now and
Right.
just offer it up for free. So that's what I end up doing, end up offering it to my whole list for free,
I love it.
invited everyone in.
I love it. I have followed this guy, Rick Rubin. He's a music producer, a huge music producer. He's worked with every famous artist, right? He founded Def
Yeah,
Jam
I know
and he's
him. Yeah.
done so much. Anyway, he wrote this
Yeah.
book called The Creative Act.
Yeah.
And one of his core principles when he works with artists is that they are creating the best possible thing and they're doing it for themselves. They're not creating it for the audience.
Right.
And then whatever happens with it after that is fine. Because the point of it is that we are creating from our soul and we're creating authentically and we're harnessing our power and our divine energy and vision in whatever we're creating, whether it's a painting or a course or a relationship or whatever it is. If we are really authentically present and birthing it from that pure place, and there's no tie or cord to someone else external about liking it or buying it or any of that,
Exactly.
then it frees you to really be in your authentic power. And it feels like that's kind of the experience you had.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that is so true. When we're creating something, it can't be because we want to please somebody else or because we want to create any kind of outcome. It just has to be because it's what we want to create, it's what we want to see in the world. And
Yeah.
that that then will make it far more likely that it will inspire others and it will have impact in the world because it's authentic.
Yeah. So what did you learn about yourself just through that process? And then going on social media and offering it out, like, how did that feel? And what did you learn from that experience?
Well, it really reinforced my belief that it's, as healers, as coaches, we have to put ourselves first. We really have to put our own healing first, and then everything else comes after that. And, just to, you know, um, add to what you're saying, like it's whether you're an artist, whether you're a healer, whether you're a coach, whatever it is that you're trying to put into the world, it really has to be the medicine that you need or want. And then that can have a ripple effect from there, but you're not really, or I'm not accountable for how other people receive it. I'm
Right.
only accountable for what I'm doing here
Right. Right. Within your heart, right?
in alignment with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes.
it's empowering to kind of really just bring it back to yourself and okay, what do I need right now? What am I looking for? What is the medicine that I am craving?
Yeah.
And then going from there. It just was a great experience to reinforce that in a really tangible way.
Also, I find that when we have disappointments like that, it's so easy to dip into a narrative and a story about it.
Mm-hmm.
Was I not good enough? Did I not market it? I mean, it's properly, it's so easy to dip into this,
Yeah.
limiting belief narrative.
It's so funny that you say that because actually day one, a part of it was how to talk to yourself like you're your own best friend.
How
Because,
perfect is that?
yeah, right? Because that's the thing. Like, if we have these challenges or disappointments, it can very quickly go into this really dark place where we start beating ourselves up, telling
Yes.
ourselves we're stupid. How could we do this? All that
We're so
stuff.
hard on ourselves, aren't we?
Exactly. And me too. And so when, again, applying the medicine back to myself, I was able to be like, okay, if I'm preaching to other people to be their own best friend, then
Yeah.
I have to also honor that, right? I have to walk the walk. So how can I comfort myself? What can I say to myself that would be more empowering? How
I
can I be my own cheerleader, my own best friend in this moment?
I love that. And I know it takes a lot of work to get to this place of self-awareness. Like you have been working on
Yeah.
yourself for a long time to be able to get to that space and hold that space for yourself, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't think it ever ends either.
Right.
And that's fine because I
Mhm.
think it's the most important and powerful work we can do.
Absolutely. I know you were in real estate very successfully
Hmm.
and supported your family. You were such a main contributor to the support of your family financially. And tell me what that looked like for you, because obviously you had a radical shift, and sometimes we think we have it all, but there's something missing. So, was that your
Yeah.
experience? Like there's something inside that's just calling to you, this little whisper. It starts as a whisper, right?
Yeah, yeah, very much so. Yeah, it was like it was in the quieter moments when I was just like, something's kind of off. Like something's just not sitting right. Like I had all the sort of trappings of success, you could say, I had the physical symbols of success. I had the house, was able to go on vacations, was able to invest money and, was meeting a lot of my financial goals, but it always felt like when I would attain a goal, it was like this momentary blip of satisfaction. And then my mind was immediately like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? And then
Right.
I realized that I just was never actually satisfied. It was never just in the present moment feeling like, yes, this is the life I want to live. I am so happy right now. It always felt like it was down the road.
Out there.
Yes, like when I'm retired and when I can do what I want, and then I'll figure it out.
Right.
But it just dawned on me that if I'm not happy and fulfilled in this now moment, I'm probably not going to be happy and fulfilled when I achieve X number of dollars in the bank or whatever the goal might be. Like if I don't feel free right now, that's not going to make me free.
Right. It just delays the process, right? Because you're waiting. That's
Yeah.
the narrative and core belief of so many people, right? When I retire, I can travel, I can do what's on my heart.
Yeah, we have this notion of financial freedom, like I'll be free when I have enough money. But
Right.
what if what if getting more money actually makes you more stressed, right?
Right.
Or
It's actually a
what?
bind. It's like a bind energetically in a
Mhm.
way,
Yeah.
because you're so tethered to that you forget to live
Hmm.
the moment. You forget to find joy. You forget because your focus and energy is so projected out to this long-term goal
Yes.
that you forget that every moment's a gift. Time with your family is a gift.
Right.
Sacred space with yourself is a gift. Your physical health is a gift.
Yeah.
And it's
Every day.
really easy to give all that up in pursuit of meeting those financial goals. I'm not saying you did that, but it's a pattern in society. And you're missing so many beautiful moments and sacred
Yeah.
moments in your life because you're not present in it, right? It's out there.
Exactly. Yeah, and how I was feeling was very anxious and stressed and also resentful because I felt like I was literally sacrificing the present moment in service of this imaginary future where I would be free, where I would be able to do what I want. So I started realizing that's not how I want to feel. That's not the energy I want to embody. That's not the energy I want to share with my family. That's not just
Right.
how I want to
There
be
is
in
a
the world.
spillover effect right?
Of
As
course, of
these things
course.
grab hold of you and start gnawing at the corners of your psyche, there's this spillover effect, right? 'Cause energetically, we start to feel this discordance inside. It's kind of
Absolutely.
push pull.
And one of the things that really kind of made it like really real for me, I would like landed it for me was like, as a mom of three kids, I always did everything I could for my kids, right? And so I worked for my kids and I nurtured my kids. I took
Right.
everything I did throughout my day was really about them.
Yeah.
But I realized that if I was embodying this energy of frustration and anger and stress,
Yeah.
then they were going to likely end up being like that as adults.
Right. Because that's what you're modeling, right?
Exactly.
And also, I know you're very intuitive and sensitive, and I guarantee you, your children are feeling every bit of that because they're probably very sensitive as well. Children are so open. They can literally read you like a book. You don't even have to speak. They can feel everything. So I
I
love that you had that self-awareness. And I wanted to ask you, I kind of wanted to go back to childhood. Have you always been intuitive and energetically connected, or did that, I mean, obviously you always have been, but sometimes we choose a very human life. In the beginning, I did, and you don't come on till a little bit later. So I was curious if you've just been open your whole life, or if that's something that you came into your awareness a little bit later.
Yeah, I definitely think I have been open my whole life. I've always been interested in, the things, the parts of life that you can't necessarily see and
Yeah.
touch. I've always
Yeah.
been very creative.
Mhm.
And actually, my parents, when I was growing up, were into meditation and, new age spirituality and things like
Wow.
that.
So
So I
you had
was
kind of an entree into it very young.
Yeah, and I was always interested in spirituality and religions and world cultures and different beliefs and perspectives, and that always held fascination for me. But of course, as I grew and matured, it was like certain parts of that were sort of suppressed, or I dampen them down a little bit because it's like, well, you got to be logical, you got to be realistic, you know, got to live in the real world, right?
All the
So
programs, right? All those
yeah.
programs start to dampen our spirit and true nature. I
Yes,
know
and
you had this very powerful experience with you lost your best friend when you were young. And
mhm.
I know that was life-changing for you. I was wondering if you could speak to that and how that impacted how you live your life now.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, she was my best friend in high school, and she died of leukemia when she was 20, and we were very, very close. And it really kind of disrupted my whole world. It was just one of those things where I was
Uh-oh.
completely blown apart. I was like, I don't know who I am. I don't know why I'm here. Like I had no direction. I had nothing. Like it was like I was in a black pit and there was no light in it. Like I just couldn't understand the meaning of anything. And it was hard, of course. And it was like, I felt like it was just beyond depression. Like I couldn't even talk about it. I couldn't really articulate anything that I was going through. And, but as I was going through that, like, eventually I did come out the other side, and it was really through, human connection that I was able to do that and finding a purpose in helping and serving other people. I went to Boston College, which is a Jesuit school, and they really encourage community service. So I did a lot of community service, and I found a lot of meaning in that. And even if I couldn't live for myself, right? Because I didn't have any sense of self, I could find a reason to live in helping other people. So that really helped me kind of like lift myself out of that hole.
Wow.
And then as I started to like put myself back together again, what I realized was I could actually choose. Like it was kind of like starting from scratch at recreating myself, rebirthing myself, because whereas before I'd been, molded into
Right.
the person I was, now I was like, well,
Mhm.
do I want to be that person? Or, do I want to have those beliefs that I used to have? Do I want to be like a wallflower? Because I was always very shy. um, as a kid, do I want to be that, or do I want to be someone who's bold and, whatever, does what she wants to do and does big things? And I decided that I wanted to be someone who actually went for her dreams and lived a big life, because after all, my friend wasn't able to do that. So I felt almost a responsibility to kind of like do that for the both of us. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, and that's what led me to kind of go in a different direction. I had studied psychology in college, but I decided to go into filmmaking because I was like, that sounds so awesome and so just fun and creative. I
Right.
was like, that's what I'm
How
gonna
did
do.
you make that pivot? I mean, how did that occur? Did you just meet someone or
It
have an
was
opportunity drop in your life? Like, how did that
it
come
was
to
just a
pass?
moment. I can remember the moment. I was literally working out at my gym at my school. I was like doing crunches and maybe the endorphins or something were like, but I was like, I was trying to think of the most amazing thing I could do with my life. Like the thing I wanted to do more than anything. And I was like, I love movies. I've always loved movies. They make me feel like anything is possible. They inspire me. I could write, I could, you know, be artistic in so many different ways. There's like the visual aspect, there's the acting, there's the drama, there's so many things. So I decided I wanted to like write movies um in that moment. And that was it.
Wow, that's a big shift. I mean, that's a radical departure from psychology.
It really is.
How
Yeah.
did you, so how did you
Yeah.
start? Like how, it's one thing when we have something pulling on our heart and it feels so authentic and so true and real. Then we have to birth that into our reality. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out how you made that transition?
Yeah. And I also just wanted to mention too, it does seem like a complete left turn, but I actually think that, so much of our psychology is rooted in archetypes and like the collective unconscious
Mhm.
and things like that. And like you said before, stories, like the stories we tell ourselves
Yeah.
mean so much in how we live our lives and how we form an identity. And so movies actually have a lot to do with all of that, right? Like we we get to like empathically live these lives of these characters that we see on screen. We identify with them, we relate to them, and then, it reflects back to our own stories. So yeah, so there is definitely like a connection in that way. And then to answer your question, I guess from there, I just started looking into what was around me, and I discovered that there was and still is quite a um, strong community of independent filmmakers around Boston, and people were doing things. They were making short movies and feature movies, and I actually worked on a ski film, which was a documentary. It's kind of like a docudrama. That was one of my first projects that I ventured out on, and I was like an assistant director type of role. And there I met a cinematographer who then referred me for some other jobs, including like a commercial for Bose stereo systems. And then
Wow.
he referred me to another guy who was making a movie, a comedy movie, and I got hired on that. And he ended up being my husband. So
Isn't it
one thing just led to
incredible?
another.
Isn't it
Yeah.
incredible how life just guides you if you follow the prompts, if you follow the golden thread, as one of my friends says,
I
it
love
takes
that.
you exactly where you need to be. And here you are married, 3 children. He's stayed in the industry. And what
Hmm.
got you to think about pivoting and going into real estate? That's kind of a radical shift.
Hmm. Yeah, so that was it was more of like a practical decision because we had moved out to Los Angeles, my husband and I, right after we got married, actually, because we were both in film, right? So we
Mhm.
figured that was the place to be, and it certainly was. We were very much immersed in the movies and in the industry and all of those good things. So 3 years later, we ended up having our first child out in LA. And that's when like priorities shifted. And I had been working long hours, right?
Right.
And I was looking at the next step in my career, which would entail even longer hours as a producer. And I was like, yeah, no, this actually won't work for me. And now I'm a new mom and I don't care to do that at all. I don't like the ambition sort of totally took a back seat, right? It was just like, no, my sole purpose is to be with my child as much as I can.
Right.
So real estate seemed like a an opportunity to allow me more time freedom, um, to be my own boss, to control my schedule, and to also, build financial security. And it was really appealing to me that instead of being someone's employee, where working harder didn't really mean a whole lot to me, like they still got paid the same. In
Mhm.
real estate, I could see the fruits of my own labor, right? If I
Right.
worked hard, I could actually
Right.
from that. So those were the main reasons I did that.
I think even though you did such different things, that psychology thread, is almost like a conduit and common thread because we're dealing with humanity in everything we do, right? In every interaction and every
Yeah.
choice we make in every relationship, whether it's professional or personal.
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
when we are intuitive and we read energy, it's very helpful to have that foundation or knowing. Um, and
Hmm.
also, it helps us to dial into what's in alignment for us energetically. We have this
Yeah.
intuitive
Yeah.
knowing which guides us, we follow that golden thread, but it's also there's this inner knowing now it's time to shift into this. And, there are twists and turns in life where we're kind of guided to pivot, right? But it
Absolutely.
sounds like everything, even though it seemed so different, was just organic and perfect the way it unfolded for you.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've always just been kind of fascinated with people and enjoyed meeting people, even though, you know, I might have been tended to be shy and introverted. I still enjoy like connecting with people and that was the part of real estate that I really did enjoy. It was just being out in the world and meeting new people and different types of personalities. And
Sure.
sometimes you'd hit it off with someone right away, and sometimes you just didn't click. And like, why, like what? It's just so interesting. So yeah, I think that's definitely a thread, like just learning about myself, learning about other people, learning about myself through other people. Like it's just, it all goes back to like, that human experience and being interested in people and helping people. So
I have a
yeah.
question for you. When you're on the verge of moving in a new direction, even when we are in our lane and creating different things, how do you navigate those little fear voices that come up? Because I know a lot of people right now are being really called forward into their purpose and their
Yeah.
power. And it's in that in between space before you've kind of let go of something and you're about to begin something new that can be really terrifying.
Yes.
There's
I
the
love that question.
fear narratives and these limiting beliefs and all the triggers, right? Kind of
Mm.
on you. So I was wondering if you could share what has helped you to really navigate those in between spaces and then the making the actual choices to transition into something new.
Yes, I love that. I think there's so many different ways to think about fear and to talk about fear. Like we can talk about it like it's a negative thing, right? And we shouldn't feel fear and we need to, find a way to not be afraid, right? And be fearless. But what I've learned is that fear is really a vehicle or a portal into something good for you, like into your next level. Like I think a lot of times we kind of think of fear as like a dead end. Like that's it. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm too scared. I should stop right here, right? That's it.
Right.
I'm going this other way because that's too scary
Mhm.
for whatever reason. But I've really realized that like the bigger the fear that you feel, the more faith can come in. So if you think about it, you can't have faith until you have fear, right? And the bigger the fear, the bigger the faith. So at the times that I've been the most scared to move forward, to take the next step, to keep going, and I felt that fear like so much, so huge in my system, it's like, okay, and this is now an opportunity to also just choose faith.
I didn't realize what a huge part of this journey faith was going to play in my life, just like for you. And it's really not belief in something outside of myself, but it's really faith in myself. I've had to lean in really hard. Be like, I've got this. I've come this far. I've overcome everything. I can do this. There's this real deep leaning in and trust of the process that's going to unfold. Like, I know I'm holding my alignment. So when I'm in my alignment, everything is going to align to support me. As long as I'm energetically aligned and I'm making choices from my heart and I am trusting the process, I know, even if I can't see where I'm going, that path is going to light up for me. There's going to be all these potentials, but that path, that one path is my path. I'm going to follow it. But I think, like you said, which is so important, people stop at that door, right? That fear door, they stop. But the fear is the gateway, right? The fear, it's the opening. And so many people just stop at the threshold of their greatness. They're right there. It's like just that next step, take the next step, and you're going to be fine. So I love that you're helping women with empowerment. And I'm really interested to know how you fell into that lane. Like, did it just organically happen through your network of friends and colleagues? Were you doing some sort of empowerment kind of mindset training as a realtor? How did you navigate that?
Yeah. Well, I think I definitely had become like a personal development junkie, if you want to use that word, because
Yeah.
I just had a real draw toward it. And I did do a lot of it as a realtor. I worked at a company, Keller Williams, where they really encouraged personal growth as part of like leveling up your business, which I loved. I just ate it up. And I did coach other agents too, like newer agents coming in. I would mentor them, and a lot of that was mindset work ultimately.
Right.
But when I came across energy healing, um, which I know we have in common, it really opened up another door for me into this like almost like new dimension of ways of looking at things and ways of being, which I had never been exposed to before. I had never, thought about things in those terms of everything is energy and,
It's
we're connected
interesting,
to
right? Because
everything.
I feel like innately you know,
Right.
right? But it's almost like, oh, this makes so much sense. Everything is
Yeah.
energy. Oh, this makes so much sense. The frequency we hold attracts the
Yeah.
experience and resonance. Like it's like gives you a language for it almost, a higher understanding of.
Yeah. And for me too, like I found that I'm someone I need to feel things experientially.
Mm,
Like I'm just someone who I need to do it or I need to feel it in my body. Like
mhm.
someone can tell me something. So somebody might have told me about this before,
Something, yeah.
but it didn't land because it needs to be felt for me to really
Maybe you weren't
know
ready at
it.
the time either. Sometimes things
True.
come into
Yeah.
our awareness, but it's not quite time. It's not quite time for us. It sounds like you have a really strong
Yeah.
inner compass
Mm.
in what is a yes or what's a no for you. And I find that that discernment piece
Yeah.
is so valuable as you move forward in life. And
Hmm.
you're probably teaching your client to
Absolutely.
follow that, what I would say, golden thread or inner knowing too. A lot of
Yeah.
it's trusting themselves, right?
Absolutely. We call it your sacred yes or your sacred no.
Right.
And
That's
that was a
huge,
huge lesson for me in realizing how many times I had ignored that. And just
right?
because, as a young person, you're told to do things and you're told that other people know better than you
Mhm.
and you believe it. And why wouldn't you? Because you don't know any better, right? So there was a lot of times in my life where, I did follow it, but there were also times when I didn't trust that inner discernment.
I
So,
find that people have a really difficult time trusting themselves. And what I've seen in my work, my healing work, is that a lot of it is a soul pattern. There's a soul patterning to it. It's not just this lifetime. There have been things through multiple lifetimes in their soul history that have reinforced that patterning, especially
yeah.
for intuitives like ourselves, especially for the um, the souls that have come in holding sacred knowledge, especially for people who have incarnated at this time to play a very big part in the mission of helping our planet come to light. They have been persecuted throughout their soul history because of who they are and the gifts that they held. And so when you're repeatedly tortured, killed, burned at the stake for speaking your
Mm,
truth and
yeah.
trying to share what you know is your truth, because like it's intuitive, right?
Yep.
It makes it difficult in this current incarnation to really trust yourself, even though you know what you know inside. To speak your truth is a vulnerable space.
Absolutely. Yes, I believe that. I think that I've probably been doing this work for many lifetimes
Mhm.
and I know that I've gotten shut down and persecuted and exiled
We all have.
for
We
this.
all have. And to be able to have the courage to come back this lifetime and really stay in our integrity this time and know that it's safe to come forward and really play the role that we're meant to play here and speak our truth and be
Mhm.
the light and guide others is a powerful, powerful thing that you're offering.
Yeah.
And I know the divine feminine has been really on your heart
Hmm.
and coming up strongly for you. Tell me a little bit about that and how that translates in your coaching work, your
Sure.
women's groups.
Yeah, sure. So again, this kind of happened in a moment. of clarity for me. I was just sitting in my bedroom and it was just like a very, normal moment. There was nothing happening. I was just sitting in my bed and all of a sudden I got a download of energy. And it was like very exquisite and very beautiful and very just like expansive. And I was like, oh, wow, like this is amazing. And at the same time, I got the words goddess uprising just landed in my awareness. And I realized that this energy was feminine energy. It was just like a pure transmission of feminine energy. And I also understood that it had been trying to come through me my whole life and maybe even before this life, right?
Right.
But I had blocked it. I had blocked it in different ways from fully expressing. And so I realized that I was going to write a book of this name. And I had a writing practice at that point for 6 months, daily writing practice. So I was already writing daily. So I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to start writing.
Amazing.
And I did. And after about a year or two, year and a half of writing this book, I realized that I really wanted to get it out into the world, not only as a book, but in a like more, immediate format where I was actually presenting and coaching and teaching to women in a live format. And so I decided to also make it into a coaching program and
That's
help women
amazing.
unblock
Mm,
themselves, kind
Where
of.
can people find your book and what's the title? Obviously,
It's
um,
Goddess Uprising.
of
However,
course, I didn't want to I didn't want to presume, but I thought I should ask. Is it available just on different
not
platforms
yet. So I'm
or?
still working on it. And I've realized that part of the reason I haven't published it yet is because the work that I'm doing with women is actually helping to inform the book because it's
Right.
not just going to be theoretical. It's going to be stuff you can integrate and implement, right? So that's the reason it's taking a little bit longer. It's because I'm bringing experience into it and the wisdom of other women I'm working with and what, their experience is. So,
That means you're
but
going to have to come back when you
yeah,
publish it so that we can
definitely.
share it with the world. That's really exciting. Carrie, I've loved our conversation so, so much. It's been wonderful hearing about
Ooh.
your journey and all the pivot points where you've had to trust yourself and choose
Mhm.
yourself. And I think as a mom, especially, it's difficult when we give everything to the children to really understand that pouring into ourselves is actually necessary for us to show up for our families and our friends and our circles in life as our highest and best. That's a
Mm,
real pivot to be able to shift the knowing that it's not selfish. It's absolutely necessary to
it
honor
is. And
honor
it's
your own needs. So before we go, do you have anything that you'd like to share with people who are maybe struggling kind of to find their way? Maybe where could they find you if they want to work with you or join your community?
mm, yeah, definitely. Well, I would say probably the best way to find me would be on Instagram. And I'm at goddess underscore uprising underscore. And the link in my bio has all the programs I'm running right now. There are various containers. And I also have a membership, which is a wonderful way just to kind of get to know my work, get to know my community. And it's a very low cost. And it's a wonderful sacred sister circle for supporting and celebrating each other, and rising together into our potential. So that is an excellent way to kind of
Oh,
just dip your toe in.
so beautiful. Do you have any words of wisdom you want to share before we sign off for the viewers?
Yeah, just to riff on what you were just saying, I would say, as women and especially as moms, I think it's actually the most generous thing that we can do to pour into ourselves and to put ourselves first, because then we get to be the most lit up version, the most radiant version of ourselves. And that really benefits everyone, are the people we love and the world in general. So yeah, make
I
that a
love that.
priority.
I love that. And I found for myself, like when I started to do that, I could finally pour from the overflow instead of constantly being depleted and burned out and resentful, which is, that doesn't benefit anyone, right? So to your point, like it
Yes.
really was a turning point for me. So beautiful words of wisdom. Carrie,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so much
much.
for being a beautiful guest today. I appreciate your presence. I appreciate and acknowledge the work you're doing for the world. Thank you for being you.
Oh,
And
thank you, Wendy.
of course, and to my audience, thank you guys. I hope you guys go out and love yourselves today. Be kind, nurture yourselves. We're going through so many changes on planet energetically, personally, globally, multidimensionally. A lot is happening out there. So stay hydrated, rest, and I love you all. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.